You're listening to the Palpat, a VGC podcast where Paul Hornak and I go around the VGC community, getting to know it just a little bit better. Before we get started today, some important announcements. Congratulations to Raghav Malavia for winning the Anaheim Regional Championships and to Jonathan Marston for winning the Harrogate Regional Championships. Upcoming events, the Dallas Regional Championships are happening on January 18th through the 20th. Register online at player.rk9labs.com and check out overloadevents.com for all the information about the regional championships. For all other events such as PCs and MSSs, you can find them by using the event locator on Pokemon.com, so check it out to keep up with all events happening near you. On today's episode, I had the chance to interview Len Alaka Deuel. He's been around since 2009 and has had a long career in both playing the VGC and the TCG and casting. It was a fun interview, being able to reminisce with one of my closest friends in the community who just jumped to relevance after having a strong finish at the 2018 North American International Championships. Hope you enjoy. All right, Len. Thanks for having me. I know this is weird. Usually you show up to someone else's place to record a podcast, but here I am instead. I'm down in Marina del Rey with one person that I actually consider my best friend here in the entire VGC community, Len Deuel. Len.
What's up?
Dude, so, I mean, first off, I guess the most important question, how did you get into just Pokemon in general? Like, what was your first introduction to Pokemon?
Pokemon Yellow on my...
Not even red or blue, just straight to yellow.
Straight to yellow.
Straight to yellow.
Well, no, see, because Pokemon Yellow on my yellow Game Boy Color, because yellow is my favorite color, and I was like 6 years old.
Actually, I had no idea that was your favorite color.
Yeah. Oh. So my parents knew I loved yellow, so they got me the full yellow set with Pikachu, and yeah.
Oh, I had no idea about that. So when did you actually like get into competitive play? Like what year generation was it that you actually you learned about tournaments or anything like that?
So just before Platinum came out, I started like learning about EVs and IVs and like going on to CeraV and Smogon and starting to try to battle people and get Pokemon. I've learned about VGC from just like a Wi-Fi tournament on Smogon and played Paul in my first ever VGC battle.
Did you win that?
I did.
Oh, you did?
I did. I told him afterwards how genius my strategy was. I told him I thought Choice Band was the best item, so I used 3 of them. So he got me DQ'd from the tournament for breaking item clause. So out of the tournament on my first one, but decided I really liked it, and so kept playing and getting ready for Dallas. That was like 2009 VGC.
Okay, so 2009 was really your first intro, your first foray into competitive. You didn't do... the big tournament before that, Journey Across America, or 2008 VGS?
So I actually did play in Journey Across America.
You did? See, there you go. That's what I was looking for, man.
I was like 12 years old. Didn't know anything about EVs or IVs, but my Kyogre was level 100, and my Fraligator was level 100, and I pressed Water Spout and Surf so good over all the other little kids.
You surfed in your own Kyogre.
Maybe it was Muddy Water. I don't remember. Anyway, I used a lot of water attacks.
How far did you get into Journey Across America?
Top 4.
Did that get anything?
Yeah, I think I got like a pillow.
You got a pillow for getting top 4.
Yep.
You didn't move on any further into that tournament.
No, I think you had to be like in the finals to get to go on to the whatever the next stage was of that tournament.
You're so close. You're just 1 win away.
1 win away.
Your career could have started in 2006 instead of 2009.
I think I didn't even know how Water Spout worked with like the health percentage, so I took a Thunder from a Mewtwo, and I was like, I'm going to Water Spout that Mewtwo back so hard, and it did like 5 damage because I was at 10% health.
JAA was such a weird format, such weird mechanics, just that introduction to doubles. So I guess 2009 was really the start of your VGC career. That was your first of 2 regional championships, right? The Dallas Regional Championships. How did you find out about that tournament? Like, how far away was it? Because I know you're actually from Dallas, right?
Yeah. Well, so I started playing in those online VGC tournaments on Smogon, started hosting them because I was like really into it.
You were the tournament host for the longest
time. So after that first online one, I wanted to play more, and no one else was really hosting them. So I started doing it every Sunday afternoon, a live tournament. like I think I called it like Smogan Live Saturday afternoon tournament. Pablo ran it first, and
that's kind of a long name.
SL Sat or something like that. We did it like weekly for years, like 2 or 3 years.
I probably played in some of those, but I don't remember that super long name or anything like that.
It was just like an acronym at the top.
Pablo Mesa, who's currently dominating the TCG, right?
Yeah. I think he ran like the first 2 or 3, and then I took over and ran it for the next years. But we just would have like 8 or 12 or 16 people, and we would play VGC every weekend, and that's kind of all the online VGC scene was. It wasn't that big at that point.
No, it's super small. I mean,
yeah,
it was a really small niche group of people. So you won Dallas. That's actually where you met.
Yeah, so by the time Dallas was coming up, I was playing VGC all the time, so I knew what the schedule was. And Dallas tournament was only like half an hour away. I convinced my mom to drive me out there. She was not really sure what was going on while we were there.
No, absolutely. My parents were exactly the same.
She wasn't behind it until I won, and then she was all about it. But yeah, it was like a great start because I had felt confident playing online in all these tournaments, but it's like it'd be easy to see Smogan as like this bubble if you're just playing online and you're beating people there, but suddenly you show up to the venue and there are like 800 people or whatever at that tournament, and who knows if that group of 10 people you've been playing with online represent the top of that 800 people or like somewhere in the random middle of it. And so it was like very rewarding to see all that practice come through and win that first tournament.
I mean, that tournament, from what I remember, the Morioka brothers went to it. I believe you beat Wesley Morioka.
That was my first time beating Wesley in a top 8 of a regional.
All right, first time beating Wesley top 8 regional. That's actually where you met one of your close friends, Tyler Hagen, Tyler 422.
Yeah.
I think I remember reading that war story about how you guys just met.
Yeah, like,
in line too, right?
Right. I mean, the community was so small. None of us had like met in person. It was still all online on Smogan. So I like wore a T-shirt with my Smogan avatar.
What was that avatar, Len?
An Alakazam, similar to my Twitter avatar now. Pinned to my T-shirt, and I like posted on the Smogan thread like, "Hey, look for me. I'm gonna have my avatar on me." That's where like some of the other memes like J Rank. Like, look for me, I'm going to have the red backpack. Yeah. I think Tyler also posted something about how to recognize him, and so he like saw my avatar and came up. Then I recognized from him his post, and so we just got talking, and yeah, we practiced VGC and like went to each other's house to spend weeks preparing before tournaments and stuff for years after that.
Yeah, I mean, that was always really cool. I remember you just randomly showing up to my house one time. You know, like I said, we're close. You came and visited me one time, and your bumper was just gone. I was like, yo, you're missing a bumper, and you're like, oh yeah, it's like somewhere back on the highway when I was trying to visit Tyler when he was at his like family's retreat or something like that. I think that's really cool. You know, it's a lifetime connection. Because of you, I got to know Tyler a lot better too, and I think that was really cool too. So 2009, you win Dallas Regionals. You make friends. Did Tyler hang out with you that year?
Yeah.
Before Nats too?
Yeah, like Nats, because I didn't. I wasn't that close to anyone else in the community really yet.
Right, so we weren't friends until 2010 because...
Yeah, so I've talked to other players at Nats, but pretty much it was just Tyler and I. So
2009 Nats happens. You qualify for Worlds. You get that free flight to Worlds. You get to go to San Diego. Tyler, unfortunately, doesn't make it. But 2009, you actually pick up TCG at the World Championships, right? Like you got into playing it there.
Yeah, like at Nats, as Tyler and I were walking around, we were just like seeing people playing TCG and like we were interested in it. So
League line.
Yeah. So I went back to Dallas and like tried to find a league and like delved more into the Pokemon community that way, met a lot more people, and played TCG pretty consistently from that 2009 Nationals until like 2013.
Yeah, we'll get into that just a little bit later. So the World Championships happened. I mean, how'd you like San Diego? The first year of San Diego. How'd you even do? I don't even know how you did that year.
Yeah, so I went 3-2.
That's not good.
12th place.
That's pretty good.
Worlds of Swords. It sounds a lot better if you say 12th place than if you say 3-2.
How did you do at the World Championships? Oh, I'm 12th in the world.
12th in the world. Yeah. Barely had a winning record. Started 0-3. Pulled it back.
Right.
Or 0-2, I guess. Yeah, I didn't take Worlds as seriously. I didn't ever really take Worlds that seriously. Nationals always felt like the
tournament for you.
Yeah, because to me it was like a chain. Like I needed to do well at regionals so I could win the trip to nationals, and I needed to do well at nationals so I could win the trip to Worlds.
Yeah.
And then Worlds was like the destination. So
Right. I mean, that's probably what your mom, like you said it earlier, your mom was just really all about this. It's like, get me this trip to this tropical location and we're good, right?
yeah, I think about this sometimes. Like that first year of getting the consecutive trips and then doing it again the next year, like it's a really good way to completely hook somebody on Pokemon. Like I developed a 2-year habit of going to every tournament because Pokemon was sending me there, and then it was hard to break that afterwards. And so,
I mean, we all get hooked at some point, right? That's how we stayed in this.
Yeah.
In this gig, 2010, you didn't have that much. I guess you did have pretty good success. Not at your home regional though. You bombed out of your home regional. You couldn't defend Dallas.
yeah, I got a little cocky actually. I because I'd won the year before, and I felt like I was playing really well, and so I had built some like really good
You're
teams.
also young back then. You're also.
I was 15.
Yeah, exactly.
So I had built some like really good teams I was really happy with, but I was like, well, you know, all I have to do is get top 16 to play at nationals. I'll like probably get top 4 with whatever crap team I use. So I like just use some like filler Metagross Giratina team. Like I'm just gonna explode on everybody and get wrecked. Like the competition gets better in VGC every year, I feel like. And
absolutely.
got knocked out pretty early on in Dallas.
Also, 2010 was the first year that anybody could play. There was no lottery, so the player pool just got way bigger too. Bombed out of Dallas, but then
so that was the first time I had to convince my parents to not make the drive to like Arlington. But my dad and I was really like hesitant to even ask. I was like, well, I've lost the tournament. That's probably just it for the season. And so I was like telling my dad that, and he was like, well,
you said Arlington? Do you mean Atlanta?
Arlington is where the Dallas tournament was.
Okay.
So rather than like the half hour from like near downtown Dallas where I live to Arlington.
So instead,
and so he even asked, he's like, well, where's the next tournament? I was like, Atlanta. He's like, so were we driving next weekend? I didn't even ask, and it was really awesome how supportive he was with that, to just bring it up and like act like, of course we're going on to the next tournament. So it's
always awesome to have supportive parents like that, especially your dad likes driving, so that was probably really helpful.
So we made the drive out there, used one of those teams I had on reserve, brought out Blissey for 2010, beat Wesley in top 8 again that year. So at that point in VGC, it was like top 4 was money and qualification to nationals, and top 8 was nothing. You just like
top 8, you got qualification.
In 2010, you got a qualification. 2009, you didn't even get the qualification.
No, yeah.
Yeah, so it was like the golf there, and so I thought the odds were crazy that I'd played the same person in top 8, just like the key match of the tournament 2 years in a row, and had managed to come out winning both times. But I got my karma for that.
Oh, yeah. So the rest of that tournament in Atlanta, you lost to one of the Arnold
Oh, yeah. That was an interesting tournament because the Arnolds got to play each other. It's the only father-son regionals final. But I was salty walking away from it. I mean, like I said, top 4 was pretty much the prizes. I got what I wanted. But I think I had my Blissey frozen on the field versus only special attackers getting ice sharded.
What's Blissey's ability? I'm sorry, Len.
Natural Cure?
Did you have a Pokemon in the back that you could switch out? No.
Of course, Blissey's the 4th one on the field.
That's
there's no team preview. It's a secret till it touches the field. Sitting there getting ice sharded for like all of the turns, so long. But they got to play each other.
But you still got money, and you were still able to attend nationals, so that's great.
Yeah, I think top 4 was like better than prize-wise was better than winning because of cash money versus.
Well, you get more flexibility in how you spend that too.
Yeah.
So you could find like a cheap hotel, cheap flight, or even drive.
Yeah.
So the next big tournament in that season, 2010 Nationals. This is really a big tournament for you. This is actually the first tournament where we actually hung out. You kind of just kept following me, and I was like, all right, I guess you're pretty cool.
I feel like that was a tournament where the kind of young VGC community really came together. Like, we'd been to 2009 Nats and Worlds together, but there weren't that many of us, and I feel like we more just hung out with the people we already knew. But 2010, it really felt like there was one cohesive VGC community. And at that point in time, for the next few years after that, it was like one community. We would all go to the restaurants. I remember one year we showed up to TGI Fridays with a party of like 42 people. I think that was the last time it was like, okay, we can't bring everybody.
I think that's when we started splintering into much smaller groups. We always had that rivalry back in the day. People always joked about how it was like Ducks versus Scar and Bliss, or if you're Aaron Zhang, then you're Falcon or something like that. But we were all just one cohesive community at that point. We were small, right? So 2010, you have a really deep run into that tournament.
Yeah, started off badly. I think I was 1-2 after 3 rounds.
That's terrible.
I lost. One of the 2 losses was to a TCG player. I had help. He decided he wanted to learn VGC, so I'd helped him learn and everything.
He beat you.
Yeah, and then he showed up and beat me at Nationals that year. But pulled it back out. I think the last round of that Swiss to go, I had the 4-2 I needed to make it into day 2 was the most exciting VGC match I've ever played. I had to.
This was mine of one best to you.
This is
best of one, mind you. Yeah.
Best of one, no team preview. So you don't even know what's coming. So I'm up against Obama Snow and Mewtwo, which is one of the standard leads.
I know. I've heard about this. Yeah.
And I have Hitmontop and Giratina, and I've been up against these leads so many times, and there's really straightforward ways for it to go. You fake out to stop one of the blizzards, you get a Shadow Force off onto Mewtwo. But obviously, you can also see how straightforward it is for the other player to there's probably a Steel type or a normal type in the back. Don't know which yet because there's no team preview. So I go ahead and put the Shadow Force 2-turn attack. So turn 1, put the Shadow Force onto Obama Snow and fake out Mewtwo. And then turn 2, put the Mach Punch onto Mewtwo. And sure enough, Blissey, my key Pokemon, switches in for the Mewtwo on the other side, takes a Mach Punch for 90%. The Obama Snow protects. Shadow Force goes through the protect for 60%, and the game is over after turn 2. And I had no counters to Blissey. I was there with Blissey, but Blissey was not one of the 4 Pokemon I had brought to the game. And so if Hitmontop, which had already taken a turn 1 Blizzard, had gone down, I just would have lost to Blissey.
Yeah, no, I remember that because it was versus Masha.
Mm-hmm.
And I remember I heard both sides of that story, one on IRC from Masha and then the other from some random YouTube video that had an interview with you about how excited you were to make it to day 2. So I heard both sides of that story. I remember that now. Oh man, what a blast of the past. So you make it to the top 16. Next day, who's your first round opponent?
Infuego.
Oh.
Who was the bad boy.
Bad boy VGC back then.
It was I don't really remember all the details of it, but and I'm sure we were half the problem. But we had decided there was bad blood between the Ducks and
for some reason we just thought that there was. But
by day 2,
we're all cool now. Drama back then wasn't really drama. So it was just weird.
So I beat I icy winded a Honchkrow with my Blissey until I won to move on from top 16. Played Skarm in top 8, match that neither of us took that seriously.
The first match against Skarm.
Yes, the first match against Skarm. And then in top 4, my most remembered VGC match, playing against Deuel.
Beagle.
Blissey managed to carry me through that, winning 3 out of 4 games.
That's right. In the middle of Game 3, right? Game 3?
Yeah, Game 3 Prime.
Game 3. As somebody was trying to root you on from the crowds by throwing PETA.
PETA was flying through the air.
There was a power outage, and back then the games were just they were powered through just electricity.
There was no battery. It was just the boxes they use for stream now were connected directly to the DS, and so as soon as the power went out, both DSs went off, and we had to restart.
Yeah. So it. Yeah, exactly, and that kind of sucked because people. There were 2 sides to the story. I'll let you.
No, go for it.
So everybody was just thinking that you lost that game because you lost.
I was losing
Pokemon. You were losing in the Pokemon count, but
it was 3-2 down. But
you had. I had Blissey in the back, yeah, and you knocked out.
I knocked out Toxicroak.
Yeah, exactly.
There was one physical Pokemon on the other side, and it was gone. I was confident, whatever. Blissey will beat Mewtwo, Kyogre, Obama Snow.
So they reset it, and then ever since then, that's one of your infamous games, just the blackout game, I guess that you had to replay. That everybody thought you were about to lose. And you got bailed out by the blackout, but in reality, a lot of other people actually knew that you had it because we were just in the crowd there's no physical attackers for Blissey coming out. And then, so moving on to the finals, Len, this is your highest finish ever. 2nd place at the national championships. You face off against Wesley Morioka again.
Yeah, so I get my karma now. I've knocked him out of keeping him out of regional top fours the 2 years before that, and then here we are back into national finals playing each other again, and I've already blissied his Combine Kyogre once this season, and he's prepared with like 4 physical attackers. So it's not happening again.
Yeah, he was way ahead of his time. You know, he used Kangaskhan.
Yeah, Kangaskhan. People don't realize that Kangaskhan was a national champion in 2010.
And Rayquaza.
Rayquaza too.
Yeah. With Top Ogre too. So, you know, there was a lot of physical Pokemon that just could get around that Blissey. So you
and a lot of priority. I think my team was like Trick Room plus Blissey, and so yeah, I was in a bad spot, and he played really well, and it was not a close final.
Yeah. So I think you and Wesley are rivals from not just that point on, but just every single other tournament that you've, I guess, have played in. Regional championships as well. So the World Championships that year are hosted in
Kona, Hawaii.
Hawaii. Yeah. So you ended up with a free trip there. You know, how was your experience in Hawaii?
I love Hawaii. My family would go pretty often, and so we'd been there, like, I think...
To Kona, or just anywhere in Hawaii?
So specifically that year already, we'd been in Hawaii like 3 weeks before the tournament. So I was doing lots of practicing Pokemon on the beach. Not really. Yeah, I really liked Hawaii, and that Kona resort was really cool. It was a fun place to have Worlds, especially with the community, kind of the size it was. We would all just hang out at the lobby of the resort.
I think that also helped solidify our friendship because it was a small resort. We were all stuck there. There wasn't really much to do. You know, you followed me again, so we continued to be friends.
Is that what this friendship is? I just follow you, so you're forced into it?
Exactly. And now you give me free places to crash when I come down to Southern California. How do you finish at the World Championships in 2009? Or 2010, I'm sorry.
I managed to stay about even, slightly downhill from the last year. I went 3-3 because we had a little more people.
You had
17th place instead of 12th place.
Another fun match at this World Championship. Sudden Death was introduced because of you.
Yeah. My history with Blissey continues on. I got to play Scarm. I think at that point we both had 2 losses already. So this was like to take the 3rd loss and really be eliminated. I'd lost to Ray Rizzo and a Japanese player ahead of that. And so we get down to Blissey versus Blissey in game 2.
3.
So this is in game 2.
Yeah.
We're in Blissey versus Blissey. Takes way too long. So time is called before, like, I think between games 2 and 3. We had actually determined a winner. I don't actually remember who won the Blissey off. If I won game 1 and he won the Blissey off, or vice versa. Mm-hmm. But we go ahead and tie at 1-1 with time call, and so they have to invent sudden death rules. You were causing a problem for them at the exact same time.
Yeah, I like to believe that the whole game determines who wins is thanks to me.
Yeah, because...
And you created sudden death, so...
Because for Duy, it was like a recoil versus...
It was a weird situation where my opponent's Smeargle was Destiny Bonding. My Toxicroak was burned. It had a Life Orb, and damage was going to KO it at the end of the turn regardless, but my low kick one-hit KO'd his Smeargle.
Yeah, so it was whether Destiny Bond KO'd or Life Orb KO'd, and the rules were like clear that each of those things determined a different winner.
Exactly.
But the game gave no message about which actually caused it.
He thought that my opponent thought he won because I KO'd myself because of Life Orb, but I was like, but you also used Destiny Bond as your last move, so we weren't exactly sure, and they actually had to figure that out on the spot. You, however, had to play the special rule, this 3rd special rule game.
Mike Lesick comes over, and he says they've determined what the sudden death is going to be, and he words it very carefully. It's the first Pokemon to fall off the screen.
Yeah.
And I didn't
Different now.
I didn't even realize the significance of that, but apparently Mike just like hooked right in. He was like, I know what to do. First Pokemon off the screen, I have the move for that. Because at that point, Explosion, the way the series of animations would work is you would explode, your health bar would go to 0.
But you wouldn't fall off.
All the other Pokemon would take damage, and if KO'd, fall off the screen. Then you would return to the exploding Pokemon, which would fall off the screen. And so with the very specific way this had been worded, Explosion was like a game-winning move in sudden death. Yeah. But it didn't matter because I crit Mach Punch and KO'd his deal.
I think, you know, going back to you being a tournament host, you did host a sudden death tournament on Smogon.
I was fascinated.
That was really fun because people knew about that mechanic now, about Explosion, so people were actually, I think he was helping me team build for that tournament. He's like, you need to bring a damp Pokemon I'm sorry, what? A damp Pokemon, because if they explode on you, you lose.
Well, for anyone who's like 5th gen VGC on, Explosion in 4th gen was twice as powerful as it was now, and it was like super common. Like 2009, I had Metagross to explode through my teams. 2010, I had Metagross again on my bad regionals team to explode. Explosion was like a staple mechanic, and so when you even buff it more because of the sudden death rules, it was like going to be key to that format. But yeah, it was really fun to run those like kind of one-off Smogon tournaments mixed into
I thought that was a really fun tournament idea.
The normal ones.
So the end of 2010 happens. We all had a great time in Hawaii. 2011 comes along. New generation of games. I think you got second place at a regional championship in 2011.
Yeah, used over the hardcore Trick Room team.
With the Gigalith.
Yeah.
You eventually lost to
Trista
in the finals.
New rivalry formed.
And we eventually all make it to the national championships.
Yeah.
We built a team.
We built a team together, but not really together. I built a team, but we weren't playing. We didn't know whether it was going to be team preview or not at the time. I think
we knew it was going to be team preview.
SPL was playing with no team preview?
Oh, I took your team later. You did build this team yourself. I took this team later on.
Right, that's what I'm saying. So I built a team for the no team preview version of the format.
Yeah.
Because that's what we did for SPL. But then by the time tournaments actually started, we knew we were doing team preview. So you took my team, rebuilt it, still based on the 2 key Pokemon, which were Chandelure, Golurk.
Yeah.
To be ready for team preview. And so I showed up to nationals with no team to play. And you're like, oh, well, I've made one of your teams better. So I took that and used it.
For those of you who want to know about that 2011 team, we called it,
Turbo Fake Fast Room.
Well, here's the thing. I think people were calling it like Turbo Room and like Fake Fast Room and stuff like that to be like fast Pokemon.
2011 was the year Trick Room was most dominant.
Yeah.
That team I got second in the originals with was 2 Trick Room setters, a level 1 Pokemon, and Gigalith and Conkeldurr.
You can use a Fungus. You can use a level 49 Amoonguss as well. You just got to speed.
Yeah, I used 48 Amoonguss. That's how.
That's a speed creep right there.
49 Amoonguss and a Focus Sash. I'm blanking what the move is called to prevent Trick Room with Chandelure. Imprison. I had a counter for Focus Sash, Trick Room, Imprison, Chandelure, because you could Rock Blast it and then Trick Room later that turn, because Imprison Chandelure was common enough because Trick Room was so common. But so then there were people faking Trick Room because you could Tailwind and make Amoonguss faster than things. And
going 90 speed Amoonguss just to outspeed everything in Tailwind.
So the whole format was weird around Trick Room.
So we created Turbo Fake Fast Room where we would not have any Trick Room setter on our team.
Yeah, there were two principles of the team.
You look like your Trick Room.
One principle, so secondary, just a team preview bluff, you look like your Trick Room, because people don't really know what Golurk is. It kind of looks like a Trick Room Pokemon. And the second principle was stop Trick Room at all costs. And so you had, because if you're not actually Trick Room and you're not going to have Trick Room on a Pokemon,
you got to stop it.
You got to stop it. And so there were so many other ways to stop it that were about support moves and playing intelligently.
Yeah.
And we just destroyed some Pokemon.
We just had to go. We just had to go, right?
Because you would lead Chandelure, Golurk. Both were ghosts, so you were immediately immune to Fake Out. You would overheat the Amoonguss.
And then Shadow Punch that.
So you were immune to Rage Powder. And then you would just Shadow Punch with Iron Fist, Ghost Gym, Shadow Punch, Golurk, and it would one-hit KO their Trick Room setter. And there were very few ways to set up Trick Room against that. And so we did pretty well with it.
Yeah,
but we didn't play enough Trick Room, I don't think.
We were so paranoid. We were scared about other Scarf Chandelures that we went timid Scarf Chandelure.
Which maybe it's just timid versus modest, but modest KO'd Thundurus and Tornadus, who were 2 of the most common Pokemon, and timid didn't.
Timid did sometimes.
Mm-hmm. But you were trading away guaranteed KOs on the most common Pokemon in the format.
Just to outspeed
yourself in a mirror match. I lost a game to missing that KO. Did you lose any games to missing that KO?
I won a game because I got the KO.
Because you got the KO.
Because it was Christina Pacino, and she played you first, right?
Oh, and I missed the KO.
You missed the KO. I got the KO.
I don't think I ever knew it was the same.
Yeah, it was the same person. Yeah.
Oh man.
Yeah.
That's rough.
So 2011 was fun.
Yeah.
We had Turbo Fake Fast Room for the national championships. We both whiffed our World's invite that year, so we had to compete in the last chance qualifier. So you ended up doing pretty well at the last chance qualifier, but you ran into Trista again.
Yeah, made it all the way to the last round just to lose to Trista. So 2 of my, I guess, 4 losses that season were.
Yeah, I lost to
Trista. 5 losses.
I lost to Luke Swenson that year in the last round as well, so that was devastating.
Yeah.
Yeah. But, 2011 itself was just a great year. I think that's when more people from abroad really became a part of the community.
That's where that year that TGI Fridays story happened, was in San Diego at Worlds that year.
Was TGI Fridays in San Diego that we tried to go to? I don't remember that one.
That's the one where we had 40 people.
Oh, I don't remember that.
Oh.
Well, I remember you driving me
we had
around
a receipt
San
for
Diego.
40 people that was taller than Brendan Zhang.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now. Yeah, you're right. Oh, man. What a trip, huh?
Yeah.
So 2011 World Championships, a lot of people from abroad come over. I mean, the tournament was just whatever. It was great to just watch Ray win his 3rd World Championship together. Second, right?
Yeah.
Not yet the 3rd. Spoilers for everybody listening. But we got to hang out a lot. I thought that was a very social World Championship. It was in San Diego, so it was easy for people to get to, more so than Hawaii. And we all hung out, and you drove me around.
Yeah, I'd driven there from Texas. I was visiting colleges.
Still just showing off how young you are. So 2011 World Championship was great for the both of us. 2012 comes around. That's the first year where TCG and VGC combine. I don't think you did that. No, you won a. Did you?
I won a regional in
you won
2012.
A regional in 2012. Yeah. You won the Dallas one, right?
Yeah. That was like the weird year where we had Swiss, but we didn't have top cut.
Yeah.
And so I went undefeated, but the last round didn't actually matter because nobody else was undefeated at the time.
Yeah.
It was a weird tournament. But yeah, I used T-Tar. The same T-Tar that I used this year. That was the beginning of my love affair with Max Special Defense T-Tar. I used the cell battery variant that year so I could discharge myself.
We'll get into that T-Tar later on. But yeah, 2012 regionals, you kind of just won that Dallas one. I don't think I heard much about what else you did that year. I'm not sure how you did at Nats that year either.
I was graduating high school that year and was not that focused on Pokemon, so I played SPL all during the winter. That used to be where most of my VGC practice came from. And so my 2011 and 2012 teams, maybe 2013 teams too, were all built for SPL, and then I just used them at VGC. But I didn't really play at all after SPL, so I showed up to the regional with a team I hadn't played with in 3 months and won anyway. But then by the time that team was 6 months older and competition was much more tough at nationals, I lost the last round to not make cut.
But we still ended up in Hawaii together.
Yeah, just went to hang out.
Yeah, did you even play in the last chance qualifier?
Barely. I was 15 minutes late, but they let me play.
You lost to Tiffany Stanley that year?
No. I lost to, I think, a Japanese woman. I don't remember.
Okay. All right. Well, I barely remember that year either. It was all a blur.
Yeah, I follow her on Twitter, but I can't.
But 2012 was a great year for hanging out again. I think Paul mentioned this in my episode of the Pal Pad where Paul interviewed me, but it was the year that we began to know our passion for basketball as a community. At least what is left.
We played basketball at the resort.
You drove us again.
We had to drive because of the resort there where Worlds was.
It's pretty secluded.
Yeah, it's not in a town, so we had to drive half an hour to the closest Walmart so we could find a basketball.
While they were about to close.
Yeah, we were racing to beat Walmart closing.
Yeah.
But we got the basketball. We got back to the resort and
shot some hoops. It was just some random hoop just on some tennis court.
Yeah, I think
random
on the resort though, wasn't it? Or was it the next resort over?
No, it was I believe it was the Hilton.
Who knows?
Whatever resort that one was called. But, we watched Ray win his 3rd World Championship. Finally, we're there in the timeline.
Yep.
But it was just a great time hanging out. We had a big group picture of all of us in Hawaii on that basketball court. That was great. Great team bonding. Great. The community was so close-knit at that point. We all loved each other. It was great. 2013 comes around, right? I believe Dallas was the first regional. So 2013 was
Yeah, I played.
You played in Dallas, right?
I
played TCG and VGC in Dallas.
3 regionals in Dallas. I think the tournament you're thinking of is a year later.
Oh,
it's the year 2013, season 2014.
Okay. So 2013, where did you...
Let's see. I played...
2013 was
I did play in Dallas. That was the first time I tried Sheer Cold Suicune. I was dominating on online ladder. I was like, oh man, I have the team. I'm just going to sheer cold everybody. I never saw the animation in game, so I did not do well at the tournament. Got bodied a lot while missing sheer
2013
cold.
was also the first year that you were in school at the University of Utah.
Yes, so I was.
So you were kind of farther away from home.
Yeah, my practice went from like continuously through the season, like it had been in 2009-10, to like the week before the tournament. So it was definitely a transition of figuring out how to like focus on studies and actually play.
Yeah. So, I mean, you moved from Dallas to Salt Lake City. Salt Lake City, luckily for you, also had a really good scene.
Yeah.
Yeah. VGC scene.
Yeah, there were a lot of tournaments, especially once we started having locals a couple years later. Yeah, it was lots of TCG going on too.
Yeah. How did you fare in all the tournaments that year? I know.
So there was that one.
You came out.
Then there was Liloom.
Oh, you didn't come out to NorCal that year. You went
to SoCal because this.
You went to SoCal.
At that point, they had started doing regionals 3 times a year, but there were 5 regionals on each date. So I think like NorCal was during Dallas.
Yeah. So you chose.
Or it was
Dallas.
Houston, but not Dallas. But yeah,
the Texas
one.
Mm-hmm.
But then for SoCal, I brought out Liloom, kind of an unpolished version of it, but it's another one I've been doing really well online with and did. I got top 8 of that tournament, lost to Enosh, top 8, so it's not bad.
You made the top cut with me?
You make top cut of that SoCal?
Yeah. I lost the Bioside that year.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think from what I remember, I got some bad information. I was, I was told the Thunderous Enosh had was like choice specs, and I had Torment on my Leopard, so I was like really confident. I'm just going to Torment this Thunderbolt, and then like switch, and he's going to have to struggle or switch, and I'm gonna wreck. So I Torment, and he makes the intelligent decision, switches from Thunderbolting to Hidden Power Icing right as I switch in Garchomp and get 1-hit KO'd.
Ooh, tough.
But yeah, that was a fun tournament. I really liked that team. That was one of my favorite teams to ever play with. I think that whole season was like 3 of my favorite teams: the Sheer Cold Suicune, Leopard, and then the Garchomp.
I think that year also, going into the last regional of that year, it was Salt Lake City. We all road tripped out to visit you. Make sure you're okay at university, because we're good friends. We like to check up on you. Report back to your parents, like anything bad, like is your dorm clean or anything like that. Salt Lake City was a great regional. That was easy for you. You hosted us. We still greatly appreciate you hosting us, but also that was also, you knew you weren't going to go to NAIC that year. You were doing an internship, right? It was going
to be assistant for somebody in an event, like the same weekend as Nationals or something I wanted to do. Mm-hmm. I had like volunteered for way before the dates. I knew the dates were going to overlap. So I knew I wasn't going to Nationals that year, and so I had nothing to play for in
Yeah, you didn't really do well, but that was the first ever Nugget Bridge regional stream. Salt Lake City that year.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I think
You commentated that. You have more commentating experience than I do, Len.
I commentated a lot of tournaments by now. That was 2013, so like almost 6 years ago.
Yeah. Wow. Don't say that ever again. But yeah, it was 6 years ago. I ended up top cutting that event, but
and Tyler did it too. Yeah.
Yeah.
He used my Lightroom team.
You actually commentated a couple of my sets that tournament because you were the commentator with Allison. So I appreciate that, Len. You were my first ever commentated match.
Nice.
Yeah. You skip the national championships, moving on to the world championships in Vancouver. You got really far in the last chance qualifier too.
Yeah, that was like there were a ton of people at that one. So some of these like last round at the 2011 last chance qualifier was like having won 3 matches, I think, or something tiny. But that one was like the 8th round or something was the last round. It was pretty intense.
It was best 2 out of 3 too.
Yeah, it was best 2 out of 3, and I felt like I played Tony Chung, I played Wesley Morioka in a rematch at the 2010 finals. I played Allison. I was just like all these serious games, and I think that the team. I loved my team for the tournament. I think it's the best team I've ever made. It was like focused all around abusing Sandvale. I know people aren't gonna like that, but it was like substitute Garchomp with leftovers, so you could hit substitute as many times as possible, force people to try to break the substitutes while you just attacked with bulky things. So again, featured my really defensive Tyranitar and offensive Cresselia and Togekiss. And it was kind of the template of a lot of the teams I've built since then. Of that really bulky Pokemon, using them as attackers with some like central ground attacker. And but I knew I was going to lose to Suicune because my main source of damage was like Sand Chip and Psychics from Cresselia.
Yeah,
and Air Slashes.
Not great against Suicune.
So anything with recovery was like a massive problem. And if it wasn't Rest, I could like T-Wave them and Air Slash them and be okay. But
the last round was what?
Was Rest Talk Suicune? And I think like another thing that was a problem, like Tornadus, I got blown away. It was
blown away by a Tornadus.
Blown away by a Tornadus, yeah.
Before it even used Hurricane.
Yeah, it was defiant.
Yeah.
Something it can't even do now.
But yeah, your opponent moved on to the World Championships. You did not. So you haven't qualified for the World Championships since 2010 at that point. Same with me, don't worry.
Yep.
You've at least qualified for it since then. So the 2013 World Championships, Vancouver was great. We hung out a lot there. And then moving on to the next season, we have one of the most epic road trips of all time.
The best series of regionals ever.
This was when regionals were starting to get staggered.
Yeah, because we had 2009 to 2011 regionals were like all in the spring, like week after week. 2012 there were twice a year, half on one date, half on the other. So the 2 was the most you could
2013
do. 2013
was
3 dates, but still a third on each date. So the 3 was the most you could do. And so then 2014 season, starting like the year 2013, was the first time we had what we have now with like you can play regionals all year long if you want to.
Pretty much.
And so I did, and you did to some extent.
Yeah.
Too.
It was, NorCal and then Phoenix right after. So it was kind of like a circuit at that point, but you made the decision to
road trip
out.
So I drove from Salt Lake to spend some time with you, go to the NorCal regional, picked you up. We went.
Andrew Sean,
of course. Drove down to LA, got pie, hung out with Kurt.
Yeah.
Continued our road trip on to Phoenix, where we got Cracker Barrel, like Phoenix is famous for.
I've never had Cracker Barrel until then. And this podcast is not sponsored by Cracker Barrel at all.
Is that the beginning of your love for Southern food? Because now I think we like based our regional travel on you getting Southern food. And I'm realizing
I definitely had a passion for Southern food beforehand. Like, don't get me wrong. Like, I was making like Southern food, chicken and dumplings and pot pie, all that in college. So it's not that.
Okay, all right.
You just helped enhance my passion for Southern cooking and Southern cuisine. So that was a really fun road trip, Len. Thank you for taking me along on that ride. I know I was very paranoid about us getting dehydrated in the desert. So, yeah, I know I was a bit much during that road trip, but it was a fun road trip.
I had a bottle of ice in my car for like years.
Because I made you keep water
there.
Well,
it was good. It was safety. And I kept it there for future safety.
Yeah. You didn't do too hot at NorCal that year.
I played Liloom again. I knew it was a bad choice, but I felt like I hadn't got to win a regional with Liloom, so I really wanted to.
It was 2014 season. It was 2013 rules.
Rules still, yeah. So Liloom, like, its only change in viability was just nearly a year of people knowing what Liloom was and being prepared for it. And that was enough to like kill Liloom being viable.
Yeah. So moving on to Phoenix, we both top cut. We had to play each other in top cut, top 8.
Even before I played you in top cut, I had to play Roshan in the last round of Swiss. So Duy and Roshan and I drive all the way across the desert, make it to Phoenix, and then I have to knock Roshan out of the tournament right before top cut, and then play Duy in the top 8.
And knocking me out too.
Oh man.
I forgot that you played Roshan in that last round. Poor Roshan that just had a bad string of luck in the 2 tournaments back to back in the last rounds. But
I was playing Sheer Cold again because that was like my team redemption tour. Don't worry about making good team choices, just redeem teams that have failed in the past.
Yeah.
And so I was using Sheer Cold Suicune again, and so I Sheer Colded Roshan's Slow King to stop Trick Room turn 1, and that's a match.
So you got top 4. You lost to Benji, Ben Irons, the eventual champion of that regional. You still got top 4 championship points, which is a sweet deal back then.
Yeah.
And then the next regional you went to was the Texas regional.
Yeah,
right?
Texas regional. It was the 3rd stop on my team redemption tour.
So you before that, though, you actually dabbled in TCG.
Yeah, so I played TCG all day one, and I did really well. I was 8-0 and the number 1 seed in the tournament after day one. But I had no intention to. I mean, it's not like I had done poorly in TCG in the past. This wasn't out of nowhere. I had like top 4 some states.
We were always
stuff.
playing TCG.
Yeah,
like at Phoenix, you wanted to play TCG, so we all went with you to play TCG.
I knew what I was doing, and I had like been barely off the World's Invite.
I'm just
going to
say this right now about you, Len. You are just really good at card games. I think you're just in general good at games. All right.
I like to do it. It's fun. So I went 8-0, and then I knew I wasn't going to play the next day, and I knew it would kind of ruffle some feathers, so I thought it'd be funny. So I posted. People at the time were like taking pictures of their deck. I think people still do it and posting it online.
Well, no, now they post it from PTCGO if they do it.
So I just like splayed out my deck, took a picture of it, posted it to the Facebook group for TCG. In between day 1 and day 2, it was like I just went 8-0 in day 1.
This is the winning 8-0 deck list here. People got mad. People thought that you didn't know that you had to play again the next day.
Yeah, they thought I'd already won, or that I was going to get to switch decks, or that I was just so excited about being 8-0 I didn't care about how it affected my performance the next day.
How'd you do the next day?
Well, so the two key problems. One, to go 8-0 at a TCG tournament, you have to be playing until like midnight. 2, I didn't pick a team until after the TCG tournament. So in Team Redemption Tour mindset, I used my 2011 Trick Room team.
Oh, no.
With only Unova Pokemon. We're bringing Gigalith back. No, it doesn't have Sandstream yet. Definitely the worst team decision I've ever made. At a tournament, like at that point, I was really like, it was my 3rd regional of the year. I had some CP. I wasn't going to play nationals again the next year, so I wanted to qualify for Worlds entirely off of regionals. So I was like very serious about wanting to top 4 that tournament at least. So I used the 2011 Trick Room team and lost my first 2 rounds, and the top 8 that I had been guaranteed a spot in for TCG had not started yet when I was knocked out of VGC.
But you couldn't go play, right?
No, because I had... So there was like 5 more rounds of Swiss.
Oh,
but I needed like one... I don't remember. It was like a win and a draw. So not actually guaranteed a spot, but like...
Close.
Yeah.
Yeah, close.
And so I hadn't played in any of that.
Oh, well.
And so...
That's the end of your tournament run there. Yep. So that was the last of the 2013 rule set moving into 2014. Was that the year that you also went to Australia?
Yeah, I played a few more regionals in the States. I played a lot that year.
Yeah, you actually top cut the long SoCal regional championships.
It was like most tournaments' least effort. All my practice time was spent playing Sea King and Miltank, but I played 7 regionals. So I used a team Tyler had built. I didn't really play any of X and Y before the first tournament. Convinced myself that was okay because I went like 8-1 or 7-1.
Yeah, you top cut like one of the biggest regionals of all time at SoCal.
With
one of the longest regional championships too.
With 1 loss, just losing to Paul on stream. Then lost to someone who went to my university, lived like 1 building over. Bridger Snow, yeah. And his Mr. Mime. I remember he revealed quick guard to go with wide guard or vice versa. So many guarding moves. Yeah, so then I flew to Orlando the next week to try to continue on my success.
You did so many tournaments that year.
I tried to continue my success from LA in Orlando. Did not do well at all, but had lots of fun at Disney. It was like a turning point of regionals being about hanging out instead of about trying to do well because Disney was so much fun.
So then
the next one was Seattle.
Yeah, and that one was one of the first ones where you really focus on commentary, right? Like,
yeah, I think I dropped with like a couple rounds left.
Yeah,
commentary.
And you and I commentated most of Top Cut. I actually had to catch a flight, so you had to finish off the finals.
And then Salt Lake was the next week.
Was I there? I was there. Yeah,
I
was there.
We went to a lot of tournaments.
Yeah, there were a lot of tournaments. We drove to Salt Lake again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Wow.
I vended at that tournament. I didn't play or commentate. I commentated. No, I didn't even commentate Top Cut. I just vended.
Was I there then? I
think so. Maybe.
Maybe I No, I think I was there.
Yeah, I think you went to all those when I was in school
Yeah.
in Salt Lake.
Huh. What are the odds of that? Yeah, because you had a place for us to stay, so why not?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So then my next tournament was in Australia because I hadn't had enough of regionals yet that season after 7. So I went and played a regional in Australia. I was already in Australia. Don't worry, I didn't fly to Australia.
We always had questions about those rules in Australia because the fine print always said winner gets a trip to the Australian National Championship, but they never said from where.
I still never know if I was actually playing for anything. I always assumed they wouldn't give me anything if I had won that tournament because they're not going to fly me from
the
US
States,
to Australian Nationals. But I don't know that. I went undefeated.
Well, you had to leave.
I had to leave.
Yeah.
They had put an end time on the tournament, which I had played. This is on me because I'd played enough Pokemon at this point. We're like 5 years in. I know that tournaments don't have an end time, but Australia hadn't done that many tournaments yet, so they put an end time. I was like, oh, well, the tournament ends then. I'll book my flight for 3 hours later. so I had to concede my top 4 match and go catch a flight to Perth to continue on with actually traveling.
Yeah, with your actual trip. We'll go more into your travels later on. 2015. All right, what even happened in the rest of 2014?
I didn't go to Nats. I played the LCQ. This was like the last time Tyler and I trained hard for a tournament. I went and stayed with him in Ohio for like...
That's right, you guys road tripped out from
a week
Ohio,
before the Worlds, trying to prepare for the LCQ. Did less preparing for the LCQ and more playing video games. Yeah, did okay. I think I lost like a few rounds left. Using Scarf Dragonite. It was pretty cool.
I didn't even know you used that. So 2014 happens. It wasn't. I don't know. We played in a lot of regionals, but I think towards the later end of the season, I don't know. I was burnt out. That was my first year commentating. I don't even remember getting to see you that much that weekend because it was such a busy weekend. Yeah. 2015.
We're making it. This is the 7th year.
Yeah, we have a pretty long history here. Paul, he's been around the community for a long time, but even then he stopped at some point. But you are still in it.
Oh, no.
2015. What even happened in 2015, man?
Well, so I think it was the first time we had lots of PCs.
Oh,
so
dominated it, yeah.
I played a week of PCs.
You destroyed the scene.
Well, it wasn't that much. Like, there weren't that many players. There were too many tournaments, probably. Because in a week, I had like 3 wins, a second, and a top 4. So I was done for the season. It's give you an idea how many tournaments were happening in Salt Lake at the time. So I won a bunch of PCs, played 1 regional. I don't remember that much. I think I played 1 round of 1 more regional and then dropped to do commentary
with me, yeah.
After losing to Skitty. I was like, I don't want to do this.
Was it Skitty or Delcatty?
No, it was Skitty.
Oh boy. That was like the biggest tournament that you commentated. That was SoCal Regional Championships. You and me, we commentated that one.
Yeah. Nonstop. Just the 2 of us.
Yeah. That was a good tournament.
I think that was where I started focusing, like, realizing I wanted to do more commentary.
More so than playing. I mean, you lost to a Skitty.
Well, yeah. It was like that moment and realizing I just didn't... The results I expected from myself weren't that realistic with how much I was practicing, and so it was just going to be frustrating. And like, I really enjoyed the commentary, and up to that point, I was only doing commentary after I was knocked out of the tournament. So like, we'll stream Top Cut after none of us make Top Cut, or whoever doesn't make Top Cut. But that was the point where I enjoy the commentary more. I would rather be doing that. There doesn't need to be this first phase of losing in the tournament before there can be the commentary.
Right. So that was the tipping point. That was when you're like, maybe I'll just do commentary instead of like going in and seeing if I can win first. But then now you just gave up. You actually
that's such a negative way to put it.
You actually traveled that year to Italy for their national championships.
Yeah, so I think I was traveling to Europe anyway, and I realized that I had
a lot of these. Let's face it. A lot of these trips that you're taking are actually trips that you were planned for fun, and it just so happens that these tournaments are also happening at the same time.
Yes, like entirely the Australia tournament was like I'd already planned every city I was going to be in.
Yeah.
And then it just happened that the Australia-New Zealand tournament series was happening at the exact same time I was traveling in Australia and New Zealand. So,
and then you hit one
so
city
one
that
of them
had it,
was an overlap with when I was going to be there. My Europe trip, I moved around some dates to make sure I was going to be in the countries at the right times to play. But I was already going to be going to Europe that season, and obviously the last 2 regionals I went to that season I didn't even play in. I just, other than the one lost to Skitty, I was doing commentary, so it wasn't a big focus. But because I had gotten so many CP from the PCs plus a little bit from regional, I was pretty close to the Worlds invite. Yeah. So after bombing UK Nats and then traveling in Europe for a couple of weeks, made it to Italian Nats and got top cut and actually got some CP.
Yeah, that CP actually helped you qualify for the World Championships.
Yeah, I played at Nats again that year. I hadn't been playing. It was going to be my 3rd year. I was not planning on playing, but that one I definitely was just because I was so close. I needed top 128 or 64 or something to get a Worlds invite.
Yeah, you were actually on stream.
The Nats that year?
In Italy.
In Italy, yeah.
I watched you.
Because I did really well.
I watched you lose.
Day 1, I think I was the 2 seed going into day 2, and I got bodied. I think a ride on. I had no answer to ride on. It was too cool.
Like a Volcarona team or something like that?
I was running one of Hui's teams.
Yeah.
It was Struggle Bug Volcarona with Gardevoir.
No answer to ride on.
Ride on, yeah.
Yeah.
It was good. 2015
World Championships. You made it to day 2, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I set that as a goal. I was okay, I know that I have the next few weeks I can actually prepare for this tournament. I want to make day 2 after this is my first chance to actually play in Worlds
since 2010.
5 years, yeah. Despite not I'd been playing most of the time through there and had some success, but just hadn't made it back to Worlds. So I was pretty focused on actually doing well. Built a team that was very derivative of my 2013 team, like I mentioned earlier, as my favorite team. And made it through day 1 pretty safely. Day 2 didn't go so well. I had a losing record in day 2.
But you still got to compete in day 2 of the World Championships, which is really nice, I think. So 2016, I don't remember what you did. I attended
2 tournaments the entire season. We casted 1 regional that Aaron Zhang won.
I wasn't there.
Oh, no. I casted 1
You casted 1 with Paul. Yeah.
With Paul. With Paul?
Yeah, with Paul.
All right.
That was the SoCal Regional Championships. I was away hosting the St. Louis Regional Championships the same weekend.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
I don't remember if I didn't go to NorCal for some reason. I feel like that was the only one I went to. And then went to Worlds that year.
You did. You did go to NorCal that year. You and I hosted it, or we
So maybe I'm just thinking
casted it.
We only cast 1 tournament of that rule set.
Yeah.
But one of the 2, NorCal or SoCal, was...
SoCal was 2016, and then NorCal was 2015 into the 2016 season.
Yeah. So that's what it was. So we
casted that one.
We cast 2 tournaments that season, and
you
then
casted.
I cast 2. Well, you did too, just at a different locale. Went to
really
Worlds.
You didn't show up to Nats at all, right?
Mm-mm. Yeah, I've only been to Nats twice since 2012.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's of all the tournaments to hang out at, regionals, I feel like it's a smaller group. Worlds is a destination.
Bigger, yeah.
Nationals is Indianapolis.
But even then, your Worlds appearance, you weren't there for that long. You were
I think I was there
for
less
3
than
days. Yeah.
less than 48 hours.
Yeah, you got in at Saturday. You were starting to work, right?
No, that's not a good excuse. Because 2015, I had started work 2 months earlier, and I'd been at work the same job for more than a year.
Oh man.
I think I took 6 weeks of vacation that year.
Yeah, you didn't have much time.
It was I need to not spend a bunch from
You need
Worlds.
to keep your job.
So
be an adult.
So I drove up after work on Friday, got in at 11 o'clock, and then drove back Sunday night. So it was there just for a little bit.
Exactly. And I barely saw you that weekend too.
Yeah.
Even though it was you can come to San Francisco anytime you want, Len. I'll hang out with you in San Francisco.
Yeah, well, I do sometimes.
For some hangouts. 2017, you didn't do much either, right?
Let's see. I played, I guess, in San Jose, but hadn't played much Sun and Moon before that because you were on the official cast there? There was an official stream.
Yeah, there was.
Then went to Dallas and vended again. Second time doing that. SoCal, I played again. I convinced myself, I actually could have cast the tournament, convinced myself that I had such a good team I wanted to try to win one. Because Chemo had used it and gotten top 8 like a month before, and I know I can, use my own teams better than Chemo can.
2017 was when we were in Anaheim before the Anaheim World Championships.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was kind of weird. You didn't actually cast that tournament. I think we let you play that tournament instead.
That's what I was saying. Yeah, I convinced myself I could do better than Chemo did with my own team. So I played. Let Gabby and you and Dawes cast that one.
Yeah.
But I don't remember any other tournaments in 2017.
It was pretty memorable. I think even your time spent at the World Championships in Anaheim was pretty minimal. I think you again came down Friday or something.
Yeah,
like
I met you guys at Universal
for like 10 minutes, and then we left.
Friday, and we got Korean barbecue afterwards.
Yeah, you were there for a very short time. You did stay until Monday morning at least, instead of just leaving Sunday night. But yeah, you 2016, 2017, you really just focused on a lot of your travels, which we'll get into later. 2018, the comeback year.
You can call one tournament a comeback.
I call that a comeback.
Yeah, I actually played a little bit more in 2018. I played UIC, and Dallas, and NAIC. So 3 tournaments.
You casted a lot too, though.
Yeah, so I cast 4 tournaments.
Yeah.
So just like a step up in involvement again. I feel like I went to a lot more tournaments.
What did we cast again?
So we cast SoCal, and we cast Vancouver. I cast Vancouver.
Mm-hmm.
And
Salt Lake City, and Portland. Yeah.
So 4 tournaments that year, plus the regional I played in, and plus 2 ICs I went to.
Like I said, man, that's a comeback.
That's a lot of Pokemon tournaments.
Obviously, players may remember you from your deep internet's run in Columbus, finishing in the top 8.
Yeah, and I think that's my best finish ever. But the top, I've had second place,
yeah.
But the game has just grown so much, and to play, these ICs are so cool now with them bringing in players from all over the world. It feels much more competitive. Yeah, I'm proud of that tournament. I think it's the best I've ever done.
Yeah, a lot of people were definitely surprised by your Tyranitar being able to survive Nick Navarre's Mega Gengar's Focus Blast.
I love that Tyranitar.
Everybody went crazy.
It's like my crutch. Every serious team I've built since 2012 has that Tyranitar on it. I think it just does everything you need Tyranitar to do. It beats all the Pokemon you need Tyranitar to beat, and it beats them even if it's already taken most of its health. I love it.
Yeah.
Wins the weather war for you because you can just switch into water moves, and who cares? Because
I always remember just trying to hit your Tyranitar with some water attack, and then I'm like, this was when you were running the Pasho variant.
Oh yes,
and I'm just like
the brutal,
yeah.
The brutal where you switch into double water moves from a rain team, but you have the sand boost and have a Paso berry, and it does nothing, and it's awesome.
Yeah, top 8. There were so many times when we were just backstage, just well, we're not sure if we should put Len on stream. Is this really worth it? Maybe he should just win the next. What's going to happen? I was actually glad that I was able to get you on stream, and
that was the first time I was ever on the
official cast. Yeah,
on the English, the not Italian cast.
And I remember I actually got to cast your top 8 match versus Justin Burns, and obviously you're my best friend. I'm not sure if I'm necessarily your best friend.
Oh, you're my best friend, Duy.
But it was really cool to be able to cast your match on that big of a stage.
Yeah, it was really fun to get to play on that stage. I mean, I'd gotten to play in the national final, but so long before, and the community has, like I said, grown so much since then. It was really fun.
And Justin played extremely well too.
Yeah,
he played very safe, and he was the better player that day.
Yeah. Justin's a really strong player. I've gotten to cast a lot of his matches. And
we always end up at the same regionals, and we always cast that.
He's always really impressive. It was fun to get to do it with one of my own teams too. Kind of felt like it was out of the meta team, not really because I was trying to be out of the meta or break anything, but just because I use the same crouch Pokemon I've used for like 5 years, and because it's a play style that works really well for me. Like I've played so many games of Pokemon now that like
with that Tyranitar.
With that Tyranitar and like just in general figuring out what I like to play with, and so having like that very safe spread damage from Salamence that I could just like pivot to positions where I could start pressing that button with support that let me continue to press that button as much as possible, and then like deceptively damaging Pokemon like the Tyranitar that trades much better than you expect in a lot of scenarios. The offensive, it was 252 special attack, modest Cresselia, so that it can trade damage much better than expected in a lot of scenarios. So you kind of win these trades you aren't expected to win, and then just whether it was Garchomp Earthquake in 2013 or Salamence Hyper Voice in 2018, you kind of surprise your opponent by suddenly clicking that safe spread move through the rest of their team.
Yeah, so Columbus was a great tournament for you, pretty much. Brought you back to the spotlight, introduced you to the younger crowd who had no idea who you were. You know, again, going back to how we loved basketball, coming back from 2012, you actually challenged us to a game of basketball, or at least a lot of people to a game of basketball. You actually went out and found a basketball court for us to play in.
Yeah, that's what Prime Now is for. We live in the future. In 2010, I had to drive half an hour to a Walmart. In 2018, I click a few buttons on my phone. The basketball drives to me.
Yeah, in like an hour, right?
It's great.
Yeah, so you actually got us to go out and play in this like 4-on-4. It was so humid in Columbus, but there was no water.
No water. We were prepared with the basketball. We didn't Prime Now water bottles.
Yeah, but it was a great idea. You know, we love playing basketball. Yeah, no, that was actually just a great tournament, I think, in general. That was your first time in Columbus too, so yeah, I mean, you got way farther than you probably expected, right?
Yeah, I mean, I felt strong going into the tournament. I had prepared more than for a lot of tournaments in the years in between. I think I tweeted that after round one. I was like, all right, I won. I'm feeling good about this team. I think I can go deep. But still, the expectation after so many years was not. I mean, I had top cut Italy and stuff, but it was not to.
So
to
with
do that.
with this top 8 finish at the North American International Championships, where do you see you're playing now? Like, where are you going to be? Do you see yourself focusing more on like commentary, or do you see yourself focusing more on like playing and competing? I
see that tournament as kind of the fluke it was, and
you're not gonna play it up. You know what it was.
I mean,
I'm not saying it was a fluke. I'm just saying like.
I mean, I'm still confident in my own abilities. I think I can be a good player if I practice a bunch. Not as good as the really dominant players in today's scene by any means. And I just prefer... I don't have the time to... or don't necessarily want to spend the time preparing all the time. And I prefer the commentary. And so it just makes more sense to the preparation necessary for the commentary, enjoy the tournaments, make them much less stressful. And, you know, maybe every couple of years, spend a month preparing for an international and see how it goes.
Yeah, and with your, passion for commentary, I actually passed down a job to you. I made you the official Nugget Bridge live stream coordinator.
Yikes!
Because I was done with it. But I mean, you organized Portland. It was great. I think you have a lot of great ideas for the stream, and I hope that we can actually implement them later on. Yeah. I mean, you even had a great idea for the podcast where you wanted us to record videos so that people could have something to watch, but you can't really do it in this cool lighting down here.
Yeah,
with your smart house.
If Duy would listen to me and had cameras up, you'd be able to see how blue and purple all the lighting around us is.
And they'd have to see how messy this wire setup is.
It's a great mood for the podcast.
My little portable setup. So you've lived. I mean, you've probably lived more places, but I know you have been in 3 places. You've been in Dallas growing up. You've been in Salt Lake City for school, and then you're now here in the LA area for work. Which area do you like the most so far? I mean, obviously Dallas has a special place in your heart, I'm sure.
Yeah, I mean, I think they all have their strengths, and I mean, they all mean a lot to me for like those different reasons. Like growing up in Dallas, a lot of connection there, and like I will always like the food there the best. I want Tex-Mex and I want fried chicken from Bubba's.
We're also not sponsored by Bubba's, but hey,
we should be again if Bubba's wants to send some fried chicken to wherever you record the podcast. I think it would be appreciated. I loved Salt Lake, being among the mountains, just
nature-y hikes and stuff.
Well, so the hikes, being next to the national parks, but also just living in a city where you like walk outside and you look around and there are mountains all around you is like a really cool thing. For everyone who has never gotten to do it, you should try it. You get a little bit of that in LA. You can sometimes see
some mountains,
mountains off in the distance.
Yeah. You went to school for game design, right, at the University of Utah.
Yeah, computer science with game design.
Yeah, and
game
right now you're
emphasis.
currently being an adult. It's kind of weird for me to say this, even though I'm only just a little bit older than you.
Yeah, we just covered history since I was 14.
It's because we were in different stages of our lives when we met, right? I graduated high school. You were still in high school, so it's a bit different. But I pretty much watched you go from this high school kid, even though I was also just like a kid fresh out of high school, to this fully functioning adult. You're out here now living on your own. You're working, designing games for big tech companies and stuff like that. It's really cool for me to be able to say that I watched all of this happen. It's weird, but at the same time, it did happen. How are you enjoying designing games and stuff like that? I know that you're currently working for like companies, but do you ever see yourself doing like indie stuff at any point?
So I mean, I don't get to design. Like I would love to design more games, but mostly I just work developing games, so I get to put some input. But it's all engineering for games. But I have made some of my own games. Made a lot of games in college. I'd love to go back to just designing and making games myself.
Oh, that's pretty cool. I think I played some of your college design games too. What was it? The virus one?
Yeah, it's like a RTS for your phone.
Was it really an RTS? I don't think it was an RTS. What was it called again?
A Net Clash.
Wow.
I mean, I think like any mobile game is about. Oh, here we go. Any mobile game is about like drawing down what that genre would be on PC or console to like kind of crystallize it. And so I think it was an RTS. It just was a mobile RTS that was like very straightforward.
Yeah. Well, I wish you the best of luck in your career paths. One other thing that I want to talk about, we've talked about it the entire time, really just your travels. I think that you're one of the most well-traveled people in the community. I mean, I'm not going to make you count how many places you've traveled to because that's just infinite.
I know, though.
Oh, you do? How many?
I've been to 25 countries.
25 countries, wow.
Yeah.
You're still super young, too, so that's more than I will probably ever visit. What was your favorite, like, country that you've been to for Pokemon? Obviously there's not that many. Or I guess, what's your favorite region that you've been to for Pokemon? And then what's your favorite region that you've been to that's not for Pokemon?
So by for Pokemon, you mean like the best experience at the tournament or just?
You go to a spot specifically for a tournament.
So like my favorite city for regional or something?
Yeah.
Let's see. Because they all... Like Orlando was a ton of fun going to Disney, but that's mainly about the people that you're there with. As far as the city itself, Nashville was really great this year.
I liked it too. I thought we had a great time.
Food was so good. We had a lot of fun.
O'Nell's.
Yeah.
One of your favorite restaurants in the whole world is one of them that we went to.
Definitely one of my favorite restaurants in the whole world.
Just like what do you say? It was like having dinner at your grandma's.
Yeah, it's like family style. It's like
you pass the plates
and all the like plates and the glasses and everything looks like it could just be like pulled out of the cabinet at your grandma's. It was awesome.
Yeah. All right. What about non-Pokemon region? What's your favorite place that you've been to non-Pokemon?
I feel like it's kind of cliche to say as a Pokemon player on a Pokemon podcast, but Japan is just really incredible.
How can you estimate how long you've actually spent in Japan? Because I can count. I've spent 4 days in Japan. That's it.
I went 2 weeks the first time. Then another week after that trip to Australia, I circled by to go to Japan for a week and also to pick up a bunch of stuff from the Pokemon store so I could vend that Dallas regional. And then for another 3 weeks,
So you
just
spent
last year.
a lot of time in Japan.
Yeah, I really love it. Food's awesome, obviously.
There's so much to do.
And yeah, there's so much to do. It's so easy to get around. My favorite thing to do is go from city to city. So like on my last trip, I spent the first week in Tokyo with a bunch of Pokemon players hanging out. But then I stayed after that so that I could like get a train pass and just like spend 2 days in a city, see some see what there was to see some, go on a hike, see some 1,000-year-old shrine, eat at some really cool restaurant, and then take the train again to the next city. Kind of went all over the country.
Yeah, that's pretty awesome. You're so well traveled that whenever one of my coworkers or anybody that I know is ever like, "Oh, I'm going to this country," I'm like, "You need some ideas as to what to do?" And
I love to
and I'll be like, "Oh yeah, I'll ask my friend Len about what to get."
I think everyone who travels a lot would say the same, but I love to research it for myself and to share the ideas. It's like a lot of the fun of the travel is figuring out what you're going to do.
Have you ever thought about starting your own blog?
Yeah.
That sounded like a yeah, but no.
I would. I have the idea in my head and would love to at some point spend like a really elongated period of time traveling nonstop, and that's when I would do something like a blog. This is if I was going to be traveling for like a year straight or something.
That's pretty awesome, Len. Thank you for sharing all of that. Do you have any shout-outs that you want to give out?
Ooh, shout-outs.
Yeah, I'll let you.
Who can I? Wait. All right. Have you done this? I've missed the shout-out portion. Who did Paul give shout-outs to?
This is the first time I'm doing it.
Well, that's
so
what I
shoot
thought.
for it, yeah.
Okay, so I get to be the first one to give Palpad.
You can be the one
shout-outs.
that takes it away too.
I'm gonna ruin shout-outs for everybody.
Yeah.
All right, we're gonna shout out Hui.
Okay.
And Cassie.
All right.
Congratulations on their engagement.
All right.
From the Palpad. We're gonna shout out Duy for coming and recording the Palpad.
Well, thanks for having me here, man.
2 in the morning in my apartment. Yeah, that's enough shout outs. Right. I don't want to ruin it for everybody.
All right. Well, maybe that'll make it. Maybe that won't. Thank you, Len, again for having me. Hope you enjoyed this episode of the Palpad. If you enjoyed it and want to hear more, like and give us some good reviews. Most importantly, don't forget to register us in your Palpad. Hit the subscribe button and follow us on Twitter @ThePalpad. Until next time, guys, have a good one.